Okay guys, I need to get this off my chest because last night is still playing on repeat in my head, and I'm not sure what to make of it. I'm Emma, 20 years old, a college sophomore just trying to keep my life together between classes, a barista job, and my tiny apartment. I thought it was going to be a quiet Friday night, curled up with Netflix and zero responsibilities. But then my neighbor Ethan knocked on my door holding a scarf I'd forgotten at the coffee shop where I work. He's married, completely off limits. And I was not dressed for company, just my comfiest clothes and a messy bun that screamed I've given up. But the way he smiled, the way our conversation turned playful, almost daring, it was like the air got warmer, heavier, charged with something I can't quite name. My heart's still racing and I need to share every single detail. Stick with me and please like and subscribe for more stories like this. The evening light filtered through the slatted blinds of my tiny apartment, casting soft golden stripes across the scuffed hardwood floor. I, Emma, was sprawled on my secondhand couch, my legs tucked under a fuzzy teal blanket, my laptop balanced precariously on my knees. It was 7 p.m. on a Friday, my one night off from the coffee shop where I slung lattes and dealt with customers who couldn't pronounce macchiato. I was determined to make in a cozy night pajama pants with little white stars, an oversized gray hoodie that swallowed my frame, and my dark hair piled into a messy bun that was more chaos than chic. My face was bare except for a swipe of lip balm, and my fuzzy socks completed the I'm done with the world aesthetic. My apartment was small, a 500 square foot sanctuary I'd tried to make my own, with string lights draped over the windows, a couple of succulents clinging to life on the sill, and a coffee table cluttered with psychology textbooks, empty tea mugs, and a half-eaten bag of popcorn. I was halfway through an episode of The Office Jim and Pam were flirting again, making my heart ache in that good way, when a knock at the door jolted me out of my haze. I paused the show, frowning. I wasn't expecting anyone. My friends were at some campus party I'd skipped, preferring my couch to sticky floors and cheap beer. The delivery guy never came this late, and my landlord only showed up when the rent was due. I shuffled to the door, my socks sliding on the floor, and peeked through the peephole. My heart gave a little jump. It was Ethan, my neighbor, across the hall, holding something blue and familiar in his hand. Ethan and his wife, Claire, had lived in the building for about 4 months, and we'd had enough hallway chats for me to know he was trouble, not the bad kind, but the kind that made my cheeks flush when he smiled. He was probably in his early 30s with dark blonde hair that always looked slightly tousled, hazel eyes that seemed to notice everything, and broad shoulders that made his casual t-shirts look unfairly good. Not that I was paying attention. He was married and I was just the college kid next door. I opened the door, suddenly hyper-aware of my outfit or lack thereof. My hoodie was baggy, but the pajama pants hugged my legs, and I hadn't bothered with makeup, my freckles on full display. "Hey, Ethan," I said, leaning against the door frame, trying to play it cool despite feeling like I'd been caught in my underwear. "What's up?" He held up my blue wool scarf, his smile warm and a little sheepish, crinkling the corners of his eyes. "Found this at the coffee shop when I grabbed a latte earlier. Figured it was yours. Saw you wearing it the other day." My eyes widened, and I reached for the scarf, my fingers brushing his as I took it. The touch was brief, but it sent a tiny spark through me, like static electricity, and I hoped the dim hallway hid the flush creeping up my neck. "Oh my gosh, thank you," I said, clutching the scarf, its soft wool familiar against my hands. I'd worn it to work yesterday, looping it around my neck against the autumn chill, and must have left it on a chair during my shift. I didn't even realize I'd lost it. "You're a lifesaver," he chuckled, his hazel eyes catching the light from my apartment, sparkling with amusement. "No big deal. I was passing by anyway." He didn't move though, just stood there, his hands in the pockets of his faded jeans, his gray t-shirt pulling slightly across his shoulders. The faint scent of his cologne, something woodsy and clean, hit me, and I felt my pulse quicken. "Nice outfit, by the way," he said, his voice teasing. "Very cozy." I laughed, rolling my eyes, but my cheeks warmed. Yeah, well, I wasn't expecting company. "This is my I'm officially off duty look." He grinned, leaning against the opposite side of the door frame, his gaze lingering a beat longer than it should have. "It's a good look. Confidence is key, right?" My stomach fluttered, and I tilted my head, matching his playful tone. "Confidence? Oh, I've got that in spades. These pajama pants are basically high fashion." I struck a mock pose, one hand on my hip, and he laughed, the sound low and warm, making the air feel heavier. "High fashion, huh? I'll take your word for it," he said, his eyes locked on mine. "You're pulling it off." I bit my lip, trying to keep my cool. But the way he was looking at me like he was seeing me for the first time made my heart race. I knew I should thank him again and let him go, but something made me step back, holding the door open wider. "You want to come in for a sec? I owe you a coffee or something for the scarf rescue." He hesitated, glancing down the hall toward his apartment, then back at me, his smile softening. "Sure, why not? But only if you've got decaf. I'm not trying to stay up all night." I laughed, leading him inside, my heart pounding as I closed the door behind him. My apartment felt smaller with him in it, his presence filling the space as he glanced around, taking in the string lights, the cluttered coffee table, the succulents that were somehow still alive despite my neglect. "Nice place," he said, his voice genuine, his eyes lingering on the details. "Hills lived in a good way." I raised an eyebrow, tossing the scarf onto the couch. "Lived in? Is that code for messy?" He chuckled, shaking his head. "Nah, it's cozy. Like you've made it your own. I like it." My cheeks warmed again, and I busied myself heading to the kitchen nook, grabbing a mug from the counter. "Decaf, right? I've got some instant stuff, but don't judge me. Barista life doesn't mean I'm a coffee snob at home." He followed, leaning against the counter, his eyes following my movements as I filled the kettle. "No judgment here. Instant's fine. Claire's the coffee snob. She'd probably faint if she saw me drinking that." My heart twinged at the mention of his wife, a sharp reminder of the line I couldn't cross. Claire was real, a lawyer with a hectic schedule, always rushing off in sleek blazers. Her blonde bob perfect even at 7 a.m. I'd seen her in the hallway. Her eyes focused, her steps purposeful, like she was always on her way to win. But I kept my smile in place, setting the kettle on the stove. "Well, Claire's missing out. Instant coffee builds character." He laughed, his eyes sparkling. "I'll tell her you said that. She'll probably challenge you to a coffee duel." I grinned, stirring the instant coffee into his mug. "Bring it on. I've got moves she's never seen." I turned, leaning against the counter opposite him, our eyes meeting again. The air felt warm, charged, like we were both aware of the space between us and how small it was. "So," I said, trying to keep things light, "how's the graphic design life? You must be buried in logos and deadlines." He shrugged, his smile turning a little wry as he took the mug I handed him, our fingers brushing again, sending another spark through me. "Pretty much. It's a lot of late nights, picky clients, and trying to make everyone happy. But it's flexible, which is nice when Claire's working crazy hours." I nodded, sensing the weight behind his words, the hint of something heavier beneath his easy smile. "Sounds intense. Do you ever get a break?" He chuckled, running a hand through his hair, making it messier in a way that was unfairly charming. "Breaks are rare, but I sneak in some classic rock or a quick walk to the coffee shop. Gotta stay sane, you know?" I smiled, sipping my own mug of tea, the warmth grounding me. "Classic rock, huh? Let me guess, Springsteen?" His eyebrows shot up and he grinned, clearly impressed. "You're good." "Yeah, Springsteen's my guy. You a fan?" "My dad's obsessed, so I grew up on Born to Run," I said, setting my mug down. "What's your favorite?" He took a sip, his eyes never leaving mine. Tough call, but probably Thunder Road. Something about that song just hits. I nodded, leaning forward slightly. Good choice, and Kraus. It's got that let's run away and live forever vibe. He laughed, his gaze softening. Exactly. You get it. He paused, then added, what about you? What's your escape when college life gets too much? I tilted my head thinking. Old rom-coms, mostly. When Harry Met Sally is my go-to. I've probably watched it a dozen times. He raised an eyebrow, his smile turning playful. Rom-coms? Didn't peg you for a hopeless romantic. I laughed, rolling my eyes. Not hopeless. Just hopeful. There's a difference. He grinned, setting his mug down, his eyes locked on mine. Noted. You're full of surprises, Emma. The air thickened, and I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. He was married. I was just the neighbor. But the way he was looking at me, like he was seeing me for the first time, made it hard to think straight. I needed to steer this back to safer ground. So, I said, forcing a lighter tone, how's life across the hall? You and Claire must have this building figured out by now. He chuckled, but there was a flicker of something in his eyes. Tiredness, maybe, or something heavier. It's good. Claire's always busy, so I'm usually the one holding down the fort. It's a lot sometimes. I nodded, sensing the weight behind his words. Sounds like you could use a break? Maybe a rom-com marathon to balance out all that classic rock. He laughed, his eyes lighting up. You trying to convert me? I don't know if I'm ready for that. I grinned, hopping up to sit on the counter, my sneakers dangling, my hoodie shifting to reveal a sliver of midriff. I caught his eyes flicker there for a split second before he looked away, and my heart raced. Oh, you're ready, I said, keeping my tone playful. You just don't know it yet. He shook his head, his smile warm and teasing. You're trouble, Emma. I can tell. Trouble's not always a bad thing, I said, my voice softer now, almost daring. The words slipped out before I could stop them, and for a moment the kitchen felt too small. The space between us charged with something unspoken. He held my gaze, his smile softening, and the air seemed to warm. Maybe not, he said, his voice low, his eyes searching mine. But it's definitely interesting. My heart raced, and I bit my lip, trying to keep my cool. I knew I should change the subject, but part of me didn't want to. My eyes drifted to the living area where a wobbly lamp flickered, its bulb loose from months of neglect. An idea sparked, and I seized it, wanting to keep him there a little longer. Hey, I said, hopping down from the counter. Since you're already here saving the day, any chance you could help with one more thing? My lamp's been flickering like it's possessed, and I'm useless with anything electrical. He raised an eyebrow, but his smile didn't fade. You're racking up favors tonight, he teased, following me to the living area. What's next, rewiring the place? I laughed, leading him to the lamp, a thrift store find with a chipped ceramic base. Don't tempt me. I'm a walking disaster when it comes to home repairs. He chuckled, kneeling to check the lamp, his fingers deftly twisting the bulb. Let's see what we've got here. The flickering stopped, and he grinned, standing up, his shoulder brushing mine as he stepped back. Fixed. You're gonna have to start calling me Mr. Fix-It. I laughed, leaning against the couch, our arms close enough to feel the warmth of his skin. Mr. Fix-It, huh? Don't get cocky. You've still got to prove you're more than a scarf rescuer. He grinned, his eyes locking onto mine, and for a moment, the room felt too warm, too close. You're relentless, he said, his voice low, teasing. But I like a challenge. My heart raced and I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. Good, I said, matching his tone, because I don't go easy on anyone. We stood there, the silence stretching between us, filled with unspoken tension. I knew I should move, lead him back to the door, but my feet stayed rooted, my eyes locked on his. He was married. I was just the neighbor, but the way he was looking at me, like he was seeing me for the first time, made it hard to think straight. My gaze drifted to my cluttered coffee table, where a pile of unopened mail had been accumulating for weeks. Another idea sparked, and I grabbed it, desperate to keep the moment going. Okay, Mr. Fix-It, I said, forcing a playful tone. Since you're on a roll, any chance you could help me tackle this mess? My mail's out of control and I'm drowning in junk. He laughed, shaking his head, but followed me to the table. You're gonna owe me big time, he said, his voice warm. What's the deal, bills, junk, or secret fan mail? I grinned, handing him a stack of envelopes. Mostly junk, probably a bill or two. No fan mail, unless you count pizza coupons. He chuckled, sitting on the couch beside me, our knees brushing as we started sorting. Pizza coupons are basically love letters, he said, holding up a flyer for a local pizzeria. You ever order from this place? I laughed, slicing open an envelope with a letter opener. Not yet, but I'm tempted. You recommending it? Only if you like extra cheese, he said, his eyes sparkling. I'm a sucker for it. We fell into an easy rhythm, sorting through the pile bills in one stack, junk in another, the occasional personal letter making me pause. Our hands brushed occasionally, each touch sending a spark through me, and I caught myself stealing glances at him. His focus was intense, but every now and then he'd look up, catching my eye with that warm, knowing smile. We talked as we worked, the conversation flowing effortlessly. I told him about my psychology classes, how my professor droned on about Freud like he was the answer to everything. And he shared stories about his graphic design clients, like the one who wanted a logo in every shade of blue, but not too blue. We laughed about the upstairs neighbor who vacuumed at midnight, and he teased me about my succulents, calling them miracle plants for surviving my care. When we finished, the table looked almost respectable, and I leaned back, stretching my arms. Not bad, I said, smiling at him. You're hired. He chuckled, leaning back too, his arm brushing mine. Careful what you wish for. I might start showing up every day. My stomach fluttered, and I bit my lip, trying to keep my cool. Don't tempt me, I said, my voice softer than I meant it to be. The air between us thickened again, and for a moment neither of us moved, the silence heavy with possibility. He cleared his throat, standing up. I should probably get back, he said, his tone reluctant, like he didn't want to leave. Work's piling up, and Claire's probably home soon. Yeah, of course, I said, standing too, my heart sinking a little. I walked him to the door, grabbing his jacket from the couch where he'd tossed it. Here, I said, holding it out for him. He slipped it on, and my hands brushed his shoulders as I adjusted it, the touch lingering just a moment too long. When he turned, we were close, and the air felt electric, like a storm about to break. Thanks for the scarf, I said, my voice soft, my eyes locked on his. And the lamp, and the mail. You're kind of amazing. He smiled, his eyes warm and searching, like he was trying to figure out what to say. Anytime, Emma. You know where to find me. My heart raced and I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. I'll hold you to that, I said, matching his tone. I stepped back, opening the door, but I couldn't resist one last tease, needing to lighten the moment before it consumed me. Next time, maybe I'll lose something else for you to find. He grinned, leaning against the door frame, his eyes never leaving mine. Careful, Emma. I might take you up on that. He paused, then added, his voice softer. Thanks for the coffee. See you around. As he stepped into the hallway, I closed the door behind him, leaning against it, my heart pounding. The cool wood pressed against my back, but it did nothing to cool the warmth in my chest. I knew it was wrong, that sparked between us. He was married and I was just the neighbor. But as I stood there, the memory of his touch, his smile, his voice lingered, a secret I'd carry until the next time. Thanks for listening to my confession, guys. I hope you felt that spark as much as I did. If you loved this story, please like and subscribe for more.